It was in the 60s and 70s that a form of art which openly described itself as feminist began to grow. They were seen as unruly or dangerously controversial, and one of the best known of them was Margaret Harrison. Her first London show was closed for indecency, and her painting of Hugh Heffner dressed as a bunny girl was stolen and destroyed. Well, to mark the 40th anniversary of that show, she's made another copy, which is being exhibited along with other works by herself and other artists at PayneShurvell in London. It's called I Am a Fantasy by Margaret Harrison and the Girls. Margaret, why was that 71 exhibition closed after one day?
I don't really quite know or understand, but I went in the following day after the opening to find that the show had been taken down. And I saw the gallery manager and I said, well, where is the stuff? And she said, well, I have had the police in here and they've warned me and I had to take it down. So she was obviously very frightened. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, you know what? They objected to the way you've portrayed the men. And now looking back on it, I think what had happened was that the police found those images that I portrayed as threatening, because what I'd done was to put Captain America in a basque, given him breasts, stars and stripes on his balls, and I'd given him high heels and stockings.
And Hugh Heffner was painted, I mean, the Playboy man.
Yeah.
You painted him as a bunny.
Yes, and I gave him breasts as well, and I gave him bunny ears, and I gave him a bunny penis. So it was a way of using humour to kind of say, well, look, this is totally ridiculous. To portray someone constantly as a kind of cocktail waitress. You know, we live our lives doing other things, and we also want to do other things. That's not the only road to success.
Now, the Hugh Heffner painting disappeared. Did
Yes.
you ever find out what happened to it?
No, but strangely enough, the PR people from the Bunny Club turned up at the show. And there was a whole gang of them. And when I was sort of gathering despondently all my stuff, I said, where's the bunny boy? And nobody could find it. Anyway, the PR person said, well, I think they've stolen it. I said, but what proof do we have? And of course, it was always denied. But later on, when I was living in America and I was visiting Los Angeles, I met some of the people who knew Hugh Heffner, and I said, you know, I had a drawing of mine of Hugh Heffner as a bunny boy. If he's got it, tell him I forgive him, but I'll have it back, please.
But you never got it back.
I never got it back.
But you have now recreated it.
Yeah.
What impact do you reckon it has now?
The only thing that I can say about that, I can't anticipate it in London, but I showed that work last year in San Francisco at a place called Intersection for the Arts. And it was a gallery that's in the heart of the gay community. And they absolutely loved that work. Not only that, but there was a young group of gay and transsexual kids who were trying to create artworks. They were shown my work and they said, oh, we've been wanting to do this all our lives. Well, they were only teenagers. And they created a whole surge of work, some of which went into the underground, also sort of swapping around body parts and saying, you know, this is normal.
What impact do you think your generation had on the next generation of women who became well-known artists? Tracy Emin, Sarah Taylor Wood.
It was a totally different era, and some people have cruelly called them Thatcher's children, because they grew into a period which the art market grew. My generation grew in the period where the art market had collapsed. So when we started doing that kind of work, we had sort of thrown out the notion we were going to sell anything. And we thought, well, we might as well do what we're interested in. Let's try and tackle it. How do we do it? And we didn't know how to do it, so we just tried different things. Now, the strange thing about that was that it opened up a whole way of working, from performance to different kinds of media. And because we were trying to find out, well, how do we tackle subject matter? Because that's the heart of what we want to do, rather than style. We were reacting against the previous styles. Now, when the market started to grow quite rapidly, those younger artists picked up on some of those ideas. Now, particular Tracy, I think, was influenced by a woman called Kate Walker. Now, Kate literally sewed her life into everything. Her bed, for instance, blankets, pillowcases, her life went into that thing. And I think she was influenced by that, but it was never acknowledged. And it came at a moment where things were saleable. Kate's name has disappeared, sadly, and I'm really kind of upset about that.
How difficult was it then? I mean, we're talking 60s and 70s, to actually call yourselves feminist artists?
Well, we didn't. It just came because we were part of the feminist movement.
You were at the Miss World.
I was at the Miss World competition, and it's partly the reason I did this, because I went...
That's the Hugh Heffner. A nice little drawing of him.
I went as Miss Lovable Bra, wearing a preformed plastic chest, the kind that you see in lingerie departments, with fur nipples, orange fur nipples, and a smile on a stick. So we were already into kind of performing, and my friend Alison Fell went with these light bulbs strapped to her chest. And she had this switch in her sleeve, and every now and again she would press the switch and they would go ba-doing, ba-doing.
And people used to say feminists had no sense of humour. Where did they get that idea?
I know. I mean, we're supposed to be these sort of sergeant major type people, but actually we were all quite small and delicate, and we felt we had to do something about it. We were so enraged by some personal experiences, because we were the generation that had developed after the broadening of the Education Act, which brought in both working class people, and a lot more women were starting to go to university. I wasn't working class, but I did go to university. So we came out of university with expectations, only to find the doors were somewhat closed, and the art world was very, very male.
Well, Margaret Harrison, you made an impact, and you're back. Thank you very much for being with us this morning.